Model murder case against defendant Courtney Clenny. Her parents have now also been arrested in connection with the case. Kim and Deborah Clenny were arrested at their home in Austin, Texas, and taken into custody by Travis County law enforcement.
What's up, YouTube? Today we are covering we're doing a follow-up with the OnlyFans murder case. This time, the parents are getting arrested too. So let's go into the reason why, shall we?
Out of Florida on charges of unauthorized or excessive access to a computer system, or electronic device. Now, local reports indicate that after police turned Clenny's apartment over to her parents, her father found victim Christian Abumseli's laptop and attempted to access it before turning it over to his attorneys. Now, this led police to believe that he was attempting to conceal evidence. Now, let's take you back to a hearing in November of 2022, where Courtney's father testified that even he knew that the relationship between Courtney and Abumseli was, quote, toxic.
It was very toxic, and I knew from the beginning that he was not treating her correctly. I saw proof with my own eyes. I heard calls between them, calls to my wife. I heard many things that a father who loves his daughter very deeply should never have to put up with.
Now, after the arrest, Courtney's attorney, Frank Prieto, released this statement saying, in part, "We believe the Clenny family has been targeted with some trumped-up charges to discredit them in the press and make their lives miserable. It stinks of a power play by prosecutors to control the narrative."
Okay, guys, a lot to break down here. First of all, the father is clearly a simp. He is. Now, in case you guys weren't here when we covered that, the definition of a simp is essentially a man who may have some seemingly well-founded reasons to be too afraid to say no to an active hate movement. In this case, it's the feminist movement. So, too afraid to say no to a woman. However, as you can clearly see in this case, if you don't put your foot down and say no, you're going to go broke in all areas of life very quickly and very fast. The reason why is because you're spending every single bit of your resources of all types trying to please somebody who just cannot be pleased. That's literally what it is. As for laptop and them trying to access it, pretty sure that's evidence of you as a parent trying to commit obstruction of evidence, aka legal documents. And unfortunately, from my research, when you do that, that means that any real documented evidence you bring to your defense, well, it's no longer credible. Like, the accusers can literally just say, like, hey, these people have already committed obstruction of evidence, so we can't trust that anymore. Yeah.
Parents are still in custody in Texas, and it is unknown when they could be extradited to South Florida to face the charges. Courtney Clenny has also been charged with the same new charges as her parents, and she still remains in jail awaiting trial for the second-degree murder of Christian Abumseli. She maintains that she acted in self-defense. All right, let's bring back in my guest, still here to discuss, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Jack Rice, and former assistant state attorney and criminal defense attorney Sue Ann Robinson. All right, Sue Ann, I want to start with you. There's a claim being made here by the defense that this is a power play by the state. In fact, there's going to be a hearing tomorrow regarding a gag order, and this was their way of, again, putting information out there before this gag order comes. And really, there's no substance to these charges. What do you make?
I think it is very interesting. I think that if they're trying to get information around what she did, around what she was doing, what happened with the electronic devices, the state has very minimal ways to do it if the parents are out of state. So is it a power play? Yes, because the state has that long arm and they're exercising it in order to thoroughly do their prosecution.
You know, it's interesting, Jack, the defense attorney also said, look, this didn't need to be out there as an arrest. You could have made a phone call. We could have settled this, talked about it, figured it out. I would have brought them in. So his idea is that, again, this is some sort of way of maybe putting pressure on Clenny and the parents. Let's remember, Clenny was on the phone with her mom, right, at the time of the murder, didn't call 911 until about 14 minutes after, when the state believes these murders happened. So there could be a lot going on here.
No, I think.
I definitely think there's a lot going on. Like, I don't really know what was that phone call about. However, when you go for like a time, I'm pretty sure since she called the mom and she was talking to her for 14 minutes, well, the man was bleeding out and dying on the floor. I'm pretty sure just the conversation was about how can I cover this up or make it look like that she was the victim and not the perpetrator. And the saddest part I want to say about here is that I'm pretty sure if Courtney Clemmy, the OnlyFans model, called 911 immediately instead of her mom being on the phone with her mom for 14 minutes. Not too certain, like, I don't have medical information for me, but if she called 911 instead of her mom, then the man could probably still be alive. We could have, the injury could have been treated in a life-saving way by that point. But she didn't. And let's not forget, everybody, this man was dying right in front of her while she was talking to her mom on the phone. And yet, her mom did not given the time frame how long the call went on, the mom did not backlash at her and tell her, "What are you doing? Call an ambulance for that guy now. You don't want to get charged with murder." But no, they were talking for 14 minutes. You can only see what was actually happening here. You can. It doesn't take much to put two and two together and see and figure out what that conversation was. It really doesn't.
What's also clear is that we don't know just how good that communication really is between the defense and the prosecution and exactly what they're trying to accomplish, whether or not they're getting all the cooperation that they want. All I do know is that the idea that if allegedly the family actually brought that computer to my office, my response is, yeah, I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
Because in the end, a big piece of this is that this is about evidence, and there are certain limitations when it comes to it. What you can't do is start hiding evidence. Again, it's only an allegation at this point, but this is part of that revving up process. When you bring multiple defendants into a case, sometimes it's designed to put pressure on others. So is this a feint? It might be.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. That's what they do oftentimes, the state, in cases like this. But the thing that jumps out at me here too, Sue Ann, is that there was a computer in an apartment where a murder happened, where an investigation took place. They finally turned it over to the parents once they were done with their investigation. And there was a computer in the apartment. I'm flabbergasted.
What you have to remember is initially the police and the state attorney that's now so zealously advocating was not investigating at all. They had closed this out. She was gone about her business. Remember, social media was following her and accusing her, and she was being tried in the court of public opinion. So now they're kind of in a situation where now they've collected more evidence. Obviously, now they're focusing on her prosecution. But initially, early on, the family actually had to retain counsel in order to push the state attorneys and the investigators in this case to continue an investigation. So that's probably why there's some pieces missing early on in the case, and why.
And that should never be the case. But it is the case right now because we're supposed to just automatically believe all women as a direct result of the feminist movement. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind if it wasn't for that, this woman would have been arrested very early on and a much thorough investigation would have taken place. Yeah.
would be able to leave the scene, allegedly.
Fair enough. That's right. She was not immediately arrested. You're exactly right. She was allowed to leave. Quickly, Jack, do they have an obligation to turn it over?
Oh, I think if you come across something like this, you certainly can't simply hide this. That's part of the problem, but it does bring up a broader question. How good is the investigation, as we just mentioned, is if we think about the fact that they dropped this through a hole, how's the rest of this? How is this going to go when you actually get to trial? Because sometimes you never know how good a case is really until you start trying to introduce evidence and you go, oh, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have that. This could be a real problem for the state. We're going to see.
I agree. Presages possible problems with their investigation and their case.
Well, I'm not really sure how the case investigation will go because, hey, that's up to law enforcement. But from my honest opinion, if the parents and the whole family is willing to resort to such extremes in order to try to cover this up, then I'm pretty sure that shows evidence of consciousness of guilt. I'm pretty sure that it does. Anyways, that's all.